do I have children?
Yeah, do you have in Hong Kong? Are they with you?
Oh yeah, no, they're not with me in Hong Kong any longer. They were up until this past summer. So I have twins, a boy and a girl. So with the Chinese, that's considered good luck. The pigeon pair. So, but yes, so Kieran and Zoe, twins. They finished high school in June of this year, and they are now studying at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver.
Right.
So yeah, so they're no longer at home. We're empty nesters. I miss them terribly. Actually, this morning, I don't know why, but I was particularly teary-eyed this morning. So, and I thought, oh no, I'm doing the Zoom call tonight. But yeah, it must be the hormones. That's all I can put it down to. So
that's lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Just nice to have that information. So, do you enjoy movies? And if you do, what movies can you watch over and over without ever getting tired?
Watch over and over again. I think I would say some of the action movies. So a lot of the Marvel series that came out over the past few years, because the characters are all intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
I find that I can watch those several times because you pick up something each time you watch it. And some of the rom-coms are definitely watchable a few times. I mean, I haven't off late only because there's just so much else to do. But if if we had someone suggested a ladies' night, for example, and to watch a movie, something like Steel Magnolias, I would watch again. I haven't watched that in ages. I remember watching that quite a few times when it first came out. And, having the box of tissues ready for the end. As a teenager, I watched Dirty Dancing, I think 20 times. I would watch that again now too. I loved Patrick Swayze. I had a huge crush on Patrick Swayze as a result of that movie. Only because there's a plethora of movies, TV shows, books, and I do all of that. I tend not to rewatch anything these days, only because there's so much new content that I like to get to. But yeah, for the purpose of the question, I would say it's the ones where it's a complex storyline, lots of characters. I would go back to. Like
as we say, life's too short to watch anything, or
even,
even to drink a bad wine, which I like. All right. So, do you like sport? And if you do like sport, what sort of teams do you follow? Do you have the dilemma that Elena was talking about earlier, where you've got this cultural difference between countries and competitions?
So, in terms of following sport, I mean, again, I don't obsessively follow any sport. I do like watching sports though, and generally it'll be sort of at the elite level when it gets to sort of the finals. So whether it's the tennis finals, the rugby, so Rugby World Cup, Soccer World Cup, I'll watch those games. Again, just don't have the time to follow all of those sports throughout the season. With rugby, yes, in terms of supporting number of countries. So when we first moved to Hong Kong, our twins played rugby for 9 years. And so the Hong Kong Rugby Sevens, as hopefully some of you have experienced, is the most iconic location for the Rugby Sevens. So Fiji tends to dominate. And so in the first few years, well, all the years when we would go, and our friends here in Hong Kong, it's a diverse, nationality. So, Brits, Aussies, Kiwis, French, all different nationalities. And I remember at probably the first rugby sevens we were at, I was saying, oh my goodness, who do I support? Because I can support Fiji, I can support Canada, I can support Australia, I can support Hong Kong. So because it's kind of around, it's a knockout type of program, it was a case of, okay, I'll support all of them, and then as they get knocked out, I'll support whoever keeps going in the competition. So a lot of our friends, some of our friends who were sitting around us in the early days who didn't know my background, they were initially puzzled as to why I was cheering for Fiji and why was I cheering for Australia. Actually, no, Australia they understood, because my husband Andrew's Australian and the kids were born in Australia, so that they understood Australia. But they certainly didn't understand Fiji until they heard the story. And then, then of course when I cheered for Canada, it was the same thing. So in subsequent sevens, the friends who we used to sit with all the time, they would say, all right, Cass, who are you cheering for this, for this year? And I said, well, it'll be the same process. I'm going to back each of them until they got knocked out, and whoever's last team standing, generally it's, Fiji won it for 5 years in a row. So that was always a laughing point. And I'd say it's great being able to support so many countries. So that's following sports. As a participant myself, I'm an avid Dragonboat paddler. I paddle for a local team called the Titan Tigers. I've been with them for 3 years. I have paddled before, so this is actually, I've just finished my 8th season paddling. Having played other team sports before, so in high school it was netball and hockey. Dragonboat paddling is absolutely the epitome of teamwork, because it's not a sport where, unlike rugby and soccer and some of the other team sports, one or two really good players can win it for the team. In Dragonboat paddling, there's no one person who can win it for the team, because it's a sport about being absolutely in synchronicity, and so one person being stronger than the other is actually not good for the team. It's about being in sync. So absolutely, love it. It's a great workout. The team I'm part of is just fabulous people. So that's what I do from a team perspective. Other sports, as I mentioned before, hiking. Hiking is a very popular sport here, and I pretty much work out, do gym workouts most days as well. So so fairly active.
Did you enter the Dragonboat paddling in Australia, or did you take that up in Hong Kong when you got there?
No, in Hong Kong.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we have a pretty big popular race.
You do. And if I ever move back to Australia, I'm sure I would take it up. So it's in my blood now. I did it for 5 years consecutively, and then I took a 3-year break, and I missed it dreadfully, which is why I took it back up again.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about books and literature. Do you have a favourite author? What are you currently reading, and that sort of thing?
The books, the genre I like generally are around the Jeffrey Archer, Michael Connelly type of genre. Thrillers, not necessarily murder mysteries per se, but that sort of genre. Murders, thrillers. Political, assassination type. I do like the odd family saga type, the Downton Abbey type as well. At the moment, I was saying this to a friend that I met up on the weekend who's also a book reader. Up until probably 4 or 5 years ago, my reading style was such that if I picked up a book, I had to finish it before I picked up another one. I was quite anal that way. I don't know why. But now I flip between 3 or 4 books. So as I mentioned before, I've started Obama's biography, but it's a 720 odd page book, and there's only so much about US politics that I can handle. So I'm reading that. I'm flipping between that one. I read a lot of leadership books now too, as well. And leadership is a lot of the leadership books I find are, it's all psychologically based. It's all psychological based. So the one I'm reading at the moment is called I think it's called Atomic Steps, which is basically the author talks about to create good, positive, long-lasting habits. All it takes is to just change habits one small step at a time. Because if you try to make big changes, the chances are that you won't stick to them. So I'm reading that book as well. But yes, I love reading. I always say I should do more. And actually, for those of you in Australia, Eddie Jaku, the Jewish Holocaust survivor who recently passed away, he wrote a book called The Happiest Man on Earth. If any of you, so I've just finished that book. That was an easy read. I think I read that in 2 days or even 2 nights. So that was an absolutely inspirational story. I mean, my goodness, the horror that man went through and still came out the other side touting about being happy. That is absolutely the mantra that I like to follow, which is it doesn't matter how awful sometimes I think my life is. You can always find a positive side to it. And this is a guy who survived 2 concentration camp sessions, being held up in 2 concentration camps and managed to survive. And so, yeah, very inspirational.
And then being able to put it into words.
Yes.
That in itself is an amazing feat. So, yeah, I agree. It's a wonderful book. Okay. How do you stay mentally aligned? What do you do for fun? Oh, well, I guess you do your Dragonboat paddling for that. Yeah.
Yep, a lot. For me, sports and physical activity is one. Reading is really part of self-care as well. Through COVID last Christmas, when Hong Kong was in lockdown, and I say lockdown, we've never really been locked down where we were never allowed to leave our homes, or we never had a 5 or 10K restriction. But we say lockdown in terms of restaurants were closed and that sort of stuff, and we weren't encouraged to go out much. I picked up painting and I always say, full disclosure, it's painting by numbers. You buy the canvas and it's got the numbers, and it's so it's not about creative painting where it's a white canvas and you paint whatever you want. The reason I like the painting by numbers is because it takes out the thought process of what color I have to use and what I'm going to create. I do it more from a therapeutic perspective. I find it very, very therapeutic. And I think I've gotten Ange onto it. So I think I've finished I've in the past year, I think I've finished more than 12 canvases. So yes, look, I watch TV, I watch movies, I read, I paint, I do yoga, I go to the gym, I go running, I paddleboat, I hike. Karen, honestly, I wish sometimes there were more hours in a day because I would do more of those. Oh, and I love socializing. I have good friends, never a shortage of someone to have a coffee with, a lunch, a glass of wine, a dinner. I went to the beach on Sunday with a girlfriend, and we just hung out on the beach for 3-4 hours just chatting and stuff. So yeah, there's not a lot that I dislike.
Sounds wonderful. All right, so we're getting to the end of the timing, but I think what we need to really find out from you is about your bucket list. So getting towards the end of having done so much in your life, what is some or a couple of the things that you still haven't done that you'd like to do?
Easy. So on my travel bucket list, obviously, the list has got longer, and I suspect I won't be able to get through most of it, given that COVID's now whacked 2 years out of that. But hopefully we'll be able to make some time on that. So the travel bucket list is never short. When I talk with friends and people say, you know, where's the first place you would go? I say, oh my goodness, that's such a difficult question, because there's so many places I would go to as a first stop. You know, discounting the fact that Mum is in Vancouver. Putting that aside, Vancouver will always be on the top of my list from that perspective. But from a pure adventure perspective, I find it very difficult. I mean, there's so many places I would want to go. So that's the travel side. From a learning, from a continuous learning perspective, I have a strong desire to do another master's degree, and I'm veering towards psychology or sociology, knowing how the human brain works and how it really underlines how all the, you know, it's what drives us to make decisions, how we react, how we behave, and it really is something that interests me. It helps the business side as well, so that's something I've added to my list. I'd love to do a master's degree, and ideally I'd love to do it on campus somewhere, because I didn't do an undergraduate degree. I don't have that campus experience, and having taken my twins to university, certainly University of British Columbia. I mean, it's not the only one. Just seeing the campus life is amazing. It's it's a community all in its own. My children would be horrified if I told them I signed up to do a degree at UBC. So I might choose a different university. But yeah, those would be the two. Continuous learning is very important to me, and experiencing other cultures is something I've always had in my blood.
And last question, what would your advice be to a younger you?
Continue to embrace opportunities and take risks. Just don't be afraid, because it's only through taking risks that we actually grow mentally. Staying in, and I know this myself. When I was in the supermarket, I was in a comfort zone. It was 3 years of being in the comfort zone, and it took my sister Fleur to say, "What are you doing with your life?" for me to go, "Oh, I thought I was doing something with my life." So yeah. So my advice to my younger self would be, don't be afraid to take risk, and not even to just younger people. Everyone should still be ready to take risks, because that's how we grow as humans. We become better people because of that.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Kaz, as an older xSJSS alumni to a much younger one. I'm in awe of what you've achieved and where you are at your time of life. So
thank you.
Share that. But I'm going to hand back to Ange now, who will take us through the wrap up. Is that right, Ange?
I will. So what I'll do is I'll do a quick screen share. These are some photos I think I've come up. Yep. These are some photos that Cass allowed me to share. You can tell the youngest one in the little walker, my baby sister. That was working the family business with Mum and Dad. That was starting class of 79. She's the second row from the front and
Yep.
third from the left.
Yep.
A swimmer. Well, she could have been an Olympian too, I suppose. Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. And for those of us, Cass is in the middle, and we also have Emily. She was in the same year as Emily from our Sydney committee. Sorry you're not here, Em. You're working hard. And she says her greatest joy, the twins, after 3 years of IVF, Zoe and Karen. That's the twins, and basically moving everything from Sydney to Hong Kong.
That's a lot of luggage.
Yeah. Well, trust me, it was a container load that you don't see in this photo that had already gone on the ship.
Travel, so they're at the Czech border. And that's the proud mama with her twins and her family. Love you, Cass. Great. Thank you for coming on the Zoom.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you for those of you who've joined us tonight to celebrate Cass, and we'll see you in 2022.
Yes, thank you, committee, and yeah, thanks for everyone for listening.
And can I just shout out to anyone who's also out there, that if there's anyone that you know who's interested in being part of our